Greetings everyone. This is a quick promo before the video begins. If you're new to the channel and you didn't know it yet, I am actually an author in addition to being a YouTuber, and I have 2 books that you can get on Amazon. Operation Red Dragon: The Daikaiju Wars Part 1 and The Occult Mafia. The first is sort of a bizarre, absurdist kaiju anime mashup, and the other is a horror noir story with a hint of a western thrown in there. They're both set in the same universe, and at this point have received mostly positive reviews, so you might want to check them out. I've provided Amazon links for both of them down in the description. They're both available in either paperback or Amazon Kindle, and Operation Red Dragon is also available in audiobook form. So if either of these strike your fancy and you want to support a struggling artist, feel free to go down and check out either one or both of them. Alright, the shameless self-promotion is out of the way, we can get on with the video. Thank you all for your support. Well, that was a very different episode. Definitely not what I was expecting. I was expecting the Ape Men to come back for revenge based on the preview we got, and I guess they kinda come back. They look like the Ape Men from last time, not the warrior ones, but the ones that were up in the bleachers. But they're just cannon fodder in this episode. They're not what this episode is about. And this was such a different episode, but in a good way. In a really good way. This is a game-changing episode, in fact, because moving forward, Primal's gonna be very different. And I gotta say, I think this also explains why there was such a long gap between the first half of Season 1 and the second half. Because this episode is clearly setting up a Season 2 at the end. But you're never guaranteed a second season, and Genndy probably had the plan all laid out for at least a 2-season series, but Cartoon Network probably told him, alright, make the first 5 episodes, based on what you've told us, they can stand on their own, and if those do well, we'll greenlight your second season and you can make the rest of the season as you want, but if they don't do well, you gotta come up with something different for the end. And they went well enough that Cartoon Network greenlit the second season, and now we've got that set up. That's just my theory anyway, but that's not really what this review is going to be about. This review is going to be about how Slave of the Scorpion changes everything, and how it is different in the best possible way. Slave of the Scorpion takes risks, that's the thing. It takes risks in terms of general storytelling, and in terms of what specifically Primal does. The first risk would be introducing a new character, the character of Mira. Because introducing a new character when you've got an established cast, even one as small as just 2 characters, that's always a tricky thing to do, because that can completely alter the dynamic. It can upset the rhythm potentially, or it can be just what the show needed. You never know. You just have to take the risk sometimes, and it's generally not considered a good thing because there are many really infamous examples of a new character coming in and it not paying off. But I think with Mira's introduction it does. In fact, her introduction kind of results in this being the most peaceful episode of Primal. Because just this once, it's not about struggling against a much greater opponent for survival. The rest of the show's been about that. But in this case, the main idea is that Spear and Fang have come across this woman. They don't know where she came from, but they know she's not from around here, and from what they can tell, she's clearly not equipped to survive in the jungle. And, you know, what do we do with her? Do we keep her around? Spear seems a little more open to it than Fang at first, because Spear is also human. All humans crave some kind of other human contact. But Fang, yeah, she takes a little while to warm up to Mira. But the way it works out really does... It works. It's a gradual sort of seeing how they figure each other out, basically. When it starts, the two parties are clearly keeping their distance. Fang is not sure that Mira's worth trusting. Spear wants to trust Mira, but isn't going to necessarily push it. And Mira probably has never seen anything like a caveman and a dinosaur piling around through the jungle before. So she doesn't know what to make of that. She doesn't know if they've got some sort of ulterior motive for keeping her around. And the episode just shows them gradually drawing closer together until they finally become a new unit. And it feels natural. It feels like it's earned, because it's just sort of a gradual thing, like I said. Just Mira tagging along, keeping her distance, but as they head deeper and deeper into the jungle, and as she sees more of what Spear and Fang can do, she gets nearer and nearer to them until she's practically walking side by side, and you have these great little moments like when that huge dragonfly is dive-bombing her, and Fang catches it by snapping her jaws right in Mira's face, and after swallowing the dragonfly, Fang just sort of looks at her, and it's almost like she's imparting a very indignant "you're welcome" before turning around and leaving. Very cat-like in a way, I think. But you have little moments like that sprinkled throughout until finally we get to the point where Spear decides we should keep her around, but clearly those things on her, those metal things on her wrists and that wooden thing on her neck, those need to go. And that leads to the other moment that was a big risk specifically for Primal. The introduction of dialogue. Up to this point, Primal has had no spoken words in it. There have been sounds, there have been vocalizations, but it hasn't been comprised of actual words. There's no narration, Spear does not speak, Fang does not speak. There hasn't been a single character that's come in who has spoken, because that's not the kind of world this is. They haven't even done the 1 million years BC made-up cave language kind of dialogue. Until Mira shows up. And that's how we learn her name. They break the yoke and the shackles, and at that point she finally decides, okay, I can trust these two, I'm going to tell them who I am. And she says, Mira. Now, I was wondering if they were going to do that. I was wondering if they would ever introduce dialogue into Primal, and if they did, how it would work. Because you get so used to this show conveying everything visually that introducing dialogue could potentially hurt that. But I think, once again, it works. First of all, it further emphasizes the idea that Mira is more evolved, if you will, than Fang. Not Fang, Spear, sorry. I knew I was going to get them confused at some point. But anyway, it demonstrates that she is more evolved because she has language. And she comes from a different place because she has language. And she just expects that he would as well. But Spear, if he ever spoke, he hasn't had to speak in a very long time because he's just living out in the wild with a bunch of animals. He doesn't need to talk. He can vocalize, but he doesn't need to actually say words, because what good are words in the jungle? But it also emphasizes how different they are, because when she says her name, she's expecting to hear something back, but both Spear and Fang just stare blankly at her. Maybe Spear's just not used to speaking anymore, but, you know, it's just sort of reinstates a barrier right at the moment where you think maybe they're starting to form some kind of connection, which they are, but that hits the brakes again. So after that you wonder, so is she going to be accepted or not? And Mira's been observing them the whole time, and she seems to figure things out pretty quickly. Like, okay, these two don't talk. I won't connect with them that way. I need to find another way. And after that point, as they're continuing to wander through the jungle, you see her collecting sticks and stone and things like that. You're not entirely sure what she's collecting them for. And once again, it seems like maybe she's not really part of the group anymore until that scene by the river where Fang and Spear are attempting to catch a terror bird that gets away. It's either a terror bird or an oviraptor. But anyway, the thing gets away. It seems like they're not going to have that for dinner until it gets hit by an arrow fired by Mira, who was constructing a bow and arrow set with all the stuff she was gathering. And basically that's how she figures out a way to reconnect with them. She knows that they're hunters. She's got to be a hunter too. And that lifts the barrier again. Like, okay, even though we can't really communicate verbally, we can still work together. Of course, she does still wind up speaking, but it's not really in a way that interferes. She's speaking in a made-up cave language, at least that's how it sounds. I don't think it's a real modern language. And she's speaking when Spear inquires about her backstory. He wants to know what that weird scorpion tattoo on the back of her head means. And she's drawing pictographs in the sand, but she's speaking while she's doing it. And this is why I think the dialogue was well executed, because it doesn't interfere with the visuals. They found a way to introduce dialogue without breaking the show don't tell rule, because it's a language no one's gonna understand, obviously. So we're not getting any information through that other than maybe her emotions. Actually, yeah, we are getting her emotional side through that, but we're not getting any information, nothing we can draw any definite conclusions from. We're still relying on the visuals for that. So it works. The introduction of dialogue works. But of course the most unexpected bit of dialogue is from Spear himself. Very end of the episode, when Mira gets captured again, and it's clearly by the same people who enslaved her, he's watching as that ship is taking her away, and he and Fang are unable to reach it because it's already too far out to sea, and he says her name. Very surreal moment for starters. But again, I think it works. I think this is a well-executed bit of dialogue because it shows that Spear has changed as well. And not changed to the point where he's like a completely different character, they ruined him forever, they shouldn't have changed anything sort of way. We've seen Spear and Fang grow and change over the course of the series. But bringing Mira into the picture has really sort of opened his eyes a little bit more. He has another human to interact with now, and she's far more civilized, and she's opening up his eyes to the idea that maybe there's more to life than just survival. Like, for pretty much the whole series, Spear and Fang have only really been looking out for each other. It's very rare that they find anyone else that they deem worth saving. Maybe the people who live in fear of those red bat monsters from beneath the blood moon, but otherwise they're just looking out for themselves. If you think about it, Spear hasn't even really been seeking out other people to be around. But now he's got another person around, and she is so different. She's introducing concepts of things like religion to him, because she worships the moon. There's that moment where he inquires about that. Again, he inquires through pictographs. It's the only time that Mira provides an answer but doesn't provide any pictographs. She just sort of places her hands over her heart and her voice conveys this deep sense of emotion. And again, we don't know what she says, but she's clearly conveying the idea that it's something that can't just be described in pictures. Faith means something much deeper. And after she makes that explanation, Spear looks at the moon like he's seeing it for the first time. And we know he hasn't been ignoring it before. He knows the moon is there, but he's never looked at it the way she looks at it. So he's clearly changing over the course of the episode. And he has changed to the point where there is now another individual other than Fang that he cares about. And he cares enough about her that her name means something, and saying her name means something. So, huge risk having an otherwise silent character speak, but definitely worth it, I think. And as for the Season 2 setup, I am very intrigued, because it seems like, well, I think what it's setting up is that they're kind of done with the whole survival in the wild, man versus nature sort of thing, at least done having that be the primary conflict, and now they're going to set it up as the main antagonist being civilization. Tarzan immediately comes to mind. Maybe there's going to be some inspiration drawn from that. But they're clearly setting these people who conquered and enslaved Mira's people as the main villains. That is clear. And they seem to have a sort of ancient Egyptian, Sumerian sort of vibe to them. For all we know, it's Atlantis. Just imagine that. Season 2, Spear and Fang sink Atlantis. That would be epic. But whatever they are clearly the villains. Even if just for the fact that they enslave people, they are villains. So the world is now opening up. Spear and Fang are being thrust into a world. It's actually, no, it hasn't been that they're thrust into it. They've been gradually seeing more and more instances where it's not just all shades of gray, where there clearly is something right and wrong going on. And again, I wonder if they're going to take some influence from Tarzan, because Tarzan, the stories are all about this man who was raised in the wild, who discovers civilization and decides that civilization is crap, and he wants nothing to do with it. I wonder how much influence they're going to take moving forward. But clearly this civilization is not one that Spear wants anything to do with. Mira's civilization, he could probably get used to that. It's not a bad civilization, at least as far as we know, but this Scorpion King Empire, whatever it is, they're clearly bad news. And that's going to set up some pretty interesting new conflicts in the second season. Because at this point, we've seen that Spear and Fang can survive in the harsh wilderness. There's no question about that. They have conquered impossible odds. They've either defeated enemies more powerful than them, or they've just been able to outrun them fast enough that they're no longer a threat. So they are set as far as being in the wild, and that's reinforced throughout this episode, where they're the ones who are guiding the way and Mira's learning the ropes from them. They're the top dogs, but when it comes to civilization, they're clearly behind. So that's going to be interesting to see when they actually do encounter civilization, and they don't really have much of a concept of it, but that civilization is also probably not all that interested in making nice. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes. And overall, man, this was a heck of a season. It was a long wait between halves, but it was definitely worth it. Yeah, Primal is something else. This episode, again, unexpected, but not unwelcome. And, well, I'm sure you guys have your own thoughts. You know the drill. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off. If you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Like and subscribe, then go down to the description to find links to follow us on DeviantArt, Patreon, and Twitter. While you're there, you'll also find the Amazon links for the original novels Operation Red Dragon, The Daikaiju Wars Part 1, and The Occult Mafia. 2 books I think you'll really enjoy. Thank you all, and we appreciate your support.